You are creative, right? You always knew that you would love to work in movies, special makeup effects, creating amazing monsters and characters.
I actually think our students get spoiled sometimes because, they have this giant special effects lab down the street.
This is a film studio. This is like the old days of MGM or Paramount. They're making movies here. They need makeup artists. This is why it's like a film studio. Here is a film program, and there's an assembly line of makeup artists in the makeup effects program.
I can't count how many productions we've collaborated on here.
You'll learn every aspect of the industry, and you get a degree. Graduates work on just about every big film and TV show out there. Make monsters, make movies at Douglas Education Center. Anything but ordinary.
Welcome to the Mid May Massacre. With live appearances by President of Trauma Entertainment, Lloyd Kaufman, host of Monster Vision, Joe Bob Briggs, actor and comic book creator, David Dastmalchian, from MeTV's Spin Bully Show, Rich Coles, from Ash vs. Evil Dead, Dana De Lorenzo, and Ray Santiago. A very special tribute to makeup effects master Tom Savini. Also appearing, horror writer Joe Hill, celebrity hosts Harry Nemiroff and Robert Meyer Burnett. The cast and winners of the sci-fi series Face Off, a live taping of the hit podcast Hidden Frequencies, and creator of the film Bone Tomahawk, S. Craig Zoller. Cast and creator Q&A with fan favorite films, Psycho Gorman, VHS Massacre 2, and Trauma's The Slasher. Plus, cast reunions from horror classic films, Friday the 13th, Part 7, Motel Hell, and the creators of top titles in horror comics. So lock your doors, stay inside. This is the Mid May Massacre.
Hey, yo, what's poppin'? I'm Chad. Welcome. It's Friday night on... Wait, no, that's the wrong opening, I think. Hey, welcome to Mainframe Comic-Con Mid May Massacre. And, yeah, we got a little bit of a preview night going on. And who else would I call when I needed somebody to talk about horror? Because it's Horro. No, I'm joking. That's right. Cat Ren Figures.
Hi.
I was waiting for you to come on and try to spell it.
Oh, God. You always make fun of the way I say horror.
Horror. Horror. All right, guys. Welcome to Mid May Massacre, a mainframe production, I guess, right?
Yeah.
On the Comic Core / hey, welcome to the Friday show. Hey, yo, what's poppin'? What's Mark eating tonight? Nothing?
Well, Mark's not here right now, so Mark's actually still stuck at work.
Oh, well, hey, Kat, you and I get to hold this down tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And tonight is unlike any other night that we've done this, because we have a cattle cave of reunions tonight. We have Friday the 13th, part 3, part 4, Don't Answer the Phone, Slumber Party Massacre, and Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, part 6. And I mean, where do we start, Kat?
Well, first off, we're starting with part 3. So this is Horror in a New Dimension, Friday the 13th, part 3.
So Jason is taking refuge in a cabin near Crystal Lake as a group of co-eds arrive for their vacation. Jason continues his killing spree. And from that movie, we have Terrence McCory, And
everybody, happy Friday.
And Paul, you got your
Come on,
internet
Paul.
going.
Let's reel him in. There's Paul.
There we go.
Paul, can you hear us now? Give me a thumbs up.
He's trying to add to the feel for some reason. The look on Paul's face.
Welcome and thank you. How long's it been since you guys have been together?
40 years. 40, I think. Yeah, I was just looking. I think next year is the 40th anniversary, I think, of Friday the 13th. And I think it was even released in May. So I think it's about 40 years right now on a Friday. So good timing.
Was it Friday the 13th though?
I don't think it was. But it sure seems like it should have been, right? I mean, maybe it was. I don't think it was. But
so Paul might be having some difficulty because he said he jumped on here earlier and told us that he lives out in the middle of no man's land, and so if he can hear us, can you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down?
We had him for a moment earlier, right? I think Paul.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
He's smiling. He's frozen.
Very broken.
Well.
It's
not.
There you are. Speak, Paul.
Very bits and pieces, not much, hardly anything.
Well, he's there.
Okay, well, he's there. He played Rick in Friday the 13th, Part 3. And Terrence, why don't you tell us?
Like I said, I'm just getting very limited reception in terms of the audio's coming in very fragmented.
Okay. Well, if you can't stay with us, that's completely understandable.
I think it's because where I live is very remote. I live out in the middle of the ocean, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
On a boat?
You're safe from Jason for the most part.
Is it a deserted island, Paul? Is it a haunted island? Like a mansion, a castle? Wherever it is, you can't hear us. So.
Have you killed any teenagers lately? Yeah.
He's gone. See, as soon as you said, "Have you killed any teenagers?" He just disappeared. So there might be something to that, but.
All right, so, hey, guys, if you Terrence is best known for his work on Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984, then coming back on Friday the 13th, Part 3, and then also Bloodhounds of Broadway. Tell us a little bit what it was like working on Friday the 13th.
Well, it was really the first production full feature I had been on, and it was really spectacular because I had met the production coordinator on a little film right out of school called Chords of Fame in New York City. And then she went out to LA because the first two were filmed in New Jersey, in North Jersey. And then this was the first time they got a big budget. And they decided, as I guess kind of a gimmick, what's going to be new and different the third time around is to do it in 3D. So they got a bunch of money, went out to LA, and that was the first time I went to LA too. And so it was exciting and new on so many levels, not just for me being my first feature, first time in LA, but for all the crew. No one had worked in 3D in decades, and so technology was new. Everything was new, and a enormous pain in the ass for a lot of people. But because I was working with Steve Meyer as his assistant, I got in on everything. So it was really a great first feature for me in so many ways. Yeah.
So I know you were waiting for our other guest to arrive. It looks like Tracy is still having some issues, and Paul. So do you mind if we jump into that a little bit?
No, not at all. I'm here for you, Chad and Catherine.
Do you want to go ahead?
Right, Catherine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Oh, sure. Yeah, because it is. I don't know if it's pathetic or exciting that I had so much stuff when I knew I was going to be on this. I started digging around. I've done a couple.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool, right?
It's very cool.
I've done a couple of horror cons before, like where's that shoulder? That's from an earlier one we did in Kentucky. And there was a guy, you know, who's dressed as Jason. And so actually, where is it? It's actually kind of fun. I don't know. Can you kind of see that a little bit? There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to put you on the big screen.
Yeah, there you go. And it's real, you know, these cons are so much fun because you get to, you know, you get to see folks you haven't seen in ages. Not going to fall, probably. Let's put it down. But so I put together just some pieces of memorabilia that I thought anyone who's tuning in might get a kick out of. So let me share it. And window, where'd you go? Chrome window. Why isn't it sharing that screen? Well, that figures, right? No, it's not there. All right, give me 1 second. I can do this. Am I gone? I'm gone.
No, you're good. This is opening night.
Right, is this fun? All right.
So,
wait. It's up on my end. Is it up on your end? I think we can do this now. Hold on.
Yep.
Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
This is like live. It's you know, it's so great. It's like live end film. Okay, here we go. Son of a gun. Yeah, look at that. See, I knew we can make this work. So.
okay, there it is.
There we go. Let's get that bigger. There we go. So this right here is the very first call sheet for Friday the 13th, Part 3, right in the middle. And at the time, it was called Crystal Japan. We weren't calling it Friday the 13th because you know, a lot of times, you know, you have a working title. But this is day one. You can see 7 a.m., March 8th, 1982. And there's, you know, Vera and Shelley, and this is the scene where they're outside and they meet the gang of Nick Savage and Gloria Charles. You know, it's Allie and Fox, those guys, and they break the window, and then they go back to the camp and get hung or whatever. They get killed by Jason. On the left is Steve Miner. Peter Schindler's the first the AD. He's in the hat. And, you know, we used Polaroids for everything back then. And it was a nightmare. So hence the sarcasm, we love 3D. And if Paul comes back, you can see him down here. We were putting together promos for all the leads for various newspapers, and we were creating this. So I found this. I'm not sure why I have it, but I do. So maybe I'll send it to him. That's me on the first, you know, day one of, you know, when I first got into SAG. That was, or at least it was called Taft-Hartley in those days. And over here on the right, even though we're in California, in the spring, it snowed. This is the grocery store. And if you remember, it's the couple. They have a grocery store. He's got the rabbit, and yep. He ends up outside, and he's in like I guess an outhouse, and obviously Jason kills them both. And then this is the credits sheet, and there's Paul, if he comes back, and Tracy hopefully will join us. But so I thought this might be kind of fun for you guys to see. No one else has this stuff because it's in my crazy binder. And you can see here, this was the stationery, Crystal Japan. I mean, it went so far that our stationery actually said Crystal Japan. It was a while before we started actually using Friday the 13th. So stopping sharing, I think. Should be out there.
So, I mean,
yep.
you know, we're talking Friday the 13th, but like, let's touch on the other, your other big name was Nightmare on Elm Street in Amityville, yep. But like, you got stuck in that 3D model, right?
I know, it was crazy. It was like, this is driving me crazy too. What is this? But I know, family and friends just made a lot of fun of me for a while. Like I was the 3D king somehow. I don't know how it happened, but I did. Because you know, it is the gimmick that these horror movies were using to attract more folks. But Friday the 13th was really the first one that was doing it. And so that's the one that was really most entertaining to be part of and watch how they did it. Nightmare was great. I was actually the costumer on that. It was early and I was working in film production, trying to work my way up from PA to, so actually getting in Friday 13th was because I was actually working in production, working my way up through the ranks. And you have no idea at the time that Nightmare on Elm Street is going to be anything, right? It's just another little low budget horror movie. But it was Wes Craven. And he had done Last House on the Left, I think, right before that. So, we don't think that, it was just one of many at the time. Friday 13th, we thought once we did, the one in 3D, that was like, all right, that's the big one. That'll end this, a little bit the series. It's like, let's go out with a bang. I don't think they were thinking it's going to continue to, how many are there now? 13 or something like that?
That's Cat's world.
Yeah. Cat, how many are there?
If you count some of the fan films, I would say there's very clearly 13, but you count like Never Hike Alone and things like that. But there's technically more like 11, and then you talk about like some of the documentaries that have gone into it and all of that. I mean, if you count everything, documentaries, fan films, all that, there's a lot going on there, especially when you get into the comics and all that. But
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, they call it a franchise.
It's a community in its own.
Yeah. The same thing with Amityville. In Amityville, though, that was done. Dino De Laurentiis was a pretty big executive producer at the time, and he did Amityville. And at the end, they blow up the house in Amityville 3 and 3D. They blow it up, and the house just kind of sinks into the pit of hell. And we all kind of felt like he did that purposely just to end the entire thing. Like, that was it. There wouldn't be another Amityville. We've blown up the house. How could it continue? So that kind of felt like that was, all right, he really wanted to end that franchise himself. But there's a lot of stars in all these that, went on to the bigger and better. What's her name? And who's in Amityville? She's part of the whole college scandal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, but you also helped dress Johnny Depp.
Well, is that something? Right? I mean, I would have brought more some Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, so maybe on another con I do, but there's Polaroids of, like, because we were in, costume and makeup worked hand in hand, and no one was paying attention to him at all, right? Because he wanted to be a rock star and did this for money, did Nightmare on Elm Street for some cash because he wanted to came to Hollywood to be a rock and roll musician. And so he wasn't taking it that seriously, and nobody else was. He was just another teenager we're going to kill off. But Robert Englund hung out with everybody a lot. But yeah, so it was Johnny Depp's first film, which I don't think he speaks about very much, that was his beginning.
I mean, that and what was the Hill Street?
It's like a high school thing.
I forget the name of the movie.
Yeah, I was almost right there too.
21 Jump Street.
21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
But like, back to the Amityville, I gotta say this. Yeah. You mentioned her. She was my biggest crush back in the day. Lori Loughlin.
Oh, all right. So you want to hear a story?
That's what we're here for.
All right, that's why we're here. All right, so I get cast as an EMT guy, right? And so Lori Loughlin drowns in Amityville, and they bring her out, and here comes me as the EMT guy, and they had a stand-in before her that I worked with, and the director at the time says, okay, do the EMT thing, revive her. So, you do, and they taught me how to do it because it's supposed to be an EMT. So you do you 1, 2, 3, and then you do mouth to mouth, right? You hold the nose and you go, right? You're doing like this.
CPR.
CPR, thank you. So I do it with the stand-in, and then she leaves, and then out comes Lori Loughlin, who was on a soap opera, I think, at the time. That was sort of her claim to fame. And yeah, super cute. And so she drowns, and she's all wet. She's lying there, and then here comes this extra, which is me, right at the time, or day player, never seen me in my life, in her life, and she's lying there, and I just go, no pulse, no pulse, continue CPR, and I lip lock her. I just reach down and give her mouth to mouth, and I've got my mouth on her, give her mouth to mouth, and she opens her eyes. She's just like, and it's rolling. And I swear to God, I said this. I said, close your eyes, you're dead. Close your eyes, you're dead. I'm this close to her. My mouth is like on her. I've got her nose. Like her eyes are like, and I'm like trying to like, be an actor or something here. I just reach her, close your eyes, you're dead. And she goes, who the F is this? Right?
Well, at least you got to look at it this way. You got to make out with Aunt Becky. I mean, come on.
Right?
Aunt Becky, come on.
You're absolutely right. Well, cut. It's not in the film. There is no, and in fact, I should have brought this up with SAG after the time. They dubbed my voice. So when you actually see the film, it sounds like a Japanese Godzilla movie. No voice, give me CPR. This deep voice comes out of my voice, my mouth. It's like, when I went to see it with my family, such abuse I got. Because like, here it is. It's Lori Loughlin. No pulse, can do CPR. We're like, who the hell is that? It's hilarious. So that was my big moment, Lori Loughlin. Yeah. So Chad, you can live vicariously through me at that moment, but it's funny.
Just tell him you ate your Wheaties that day. It's fine. It's fine. You were ready for the scene.
I was ready.
You were ready.
Close your eyes, you're dead.
You're dead.
Close your eyes, you're dead. Yeah.
So, Terrence, you said earlier it's been 40 years. What have you been up to? What are you doing now?
I wish I had something witty to say just now because it's 40 years. Well, is it really? I just came downstairs. Well, I continued working in film for a while. The whole goal was, from New York on the West Coast, we're all going to be, Coppola's and direct and what have you. And, when you see all the list of credits on all those films, everyone there had the same idea, right? So I still have friends and family in the business, but, everyone in different areas. I came back to New York from LA, and then there was a writer's strike. And so I did some production. I did you're talking about Alphabet City and things like that. But then got into production managing and directing industrials for a while. Still trying to write screenplays. We wrote some screenplays that never got. We got close with like Miramax, a couple things. So kept trying, and then quite honestly, I switched gears, and like we're talking in backstage, kind of blew the minds of my buddies in film, especially horror. And I went and got a master's in theology and became a campus minister and spiritual director. So I did become a director, but it's called spiritual director. So I spiritual, companion folks on their spiritual journeys, but I obviously still love the business, and I do a little stuff here and there, did some print work and whatever, but there's not, you have to really have time available to be in a business, as you guys know. It's tough to treat that as a side gig. You really have to be pretty focused. So haven't done a whole lot in the last few years.
Well, so as a spiritual advisor, let me ask you a question. What was the last horror film that you saw?
I have to tell you, I stopped watching for a really long time because I couldn't watch it without dissecting it, because I just knew how they were made. After Amityville and Nightmare on Elm Street, for a good 10 years, I'd be like, oh, I'd be looking at how this and so I kind of they stopped scaring me, etc. So. And then when I did return to them, It got into the genre of psychological thrillers.
Yep.
And to me, that stuff is way scarier than an arrow in the eye, or whatever 3D things we're doing. So the psychological scary. I guess Saw. It's pretty freaky.
I think it's funny. Movies. Yeah, I mean the Saw franchise has been around for a while.
That's been a while. Chucky.
Yeah, anything with a little doll freaks me out.
Yeah, that Chucky thing, man, that is freak. That freaks me right out. That talking clown doll, just So,
I'll share a quick story with you. Like my dad had a horrific accident when they were building their house. There's a couple things like you shouldn't know.
I know this story.
and my dad and
will your family ever see this, by the way?
No, my parents don't know. I'm in my wife's asleep. My son's upstairs playing a video game. I have the puppy down here.
Right.
And when I started doing this, my wife's like, you can't do this anywhere in this house. There's too much clutter. And like, we're very minimalist. And I was like, well, I want to do this podcast. And she's like, well, you can do it in the laundry room. So I'm literally I'm in my laundry room.
Well, I think your backdrop worked perfect for, it fit in with the brick and all that. So
that's actually wallpaper. I just put that up.
Nicely done. It works.
Yeah. So, but anyway, my dad was filming. They were building our home, and my grandfather, who's passed on. My dad was cutting down standing over top of my grandfather, helping him cut down a chainsaw. With a chainsaw, cut down a tree. Well, the blade broke, and unfortunately, it caught my dad here and almost severed his jugular vein, but like ripped his entire jaw off.
Oh my goodness!
So he fortunately, thank God, he survived. Right. So this is the part that no child should ever know, is that 9 months later I came after he came out of the hospital. So like, you shouldn't know when you're roundabout or why you were conceived. Yeah. But so my dad for the longest time never allowed me to watch any horror flicks, especially Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Way too close.
So I convinced him to go see one time. And we went to see Pet Sematary. My dad was so like I remember picking my mom up because she went to the mall, and she goes, "What's the matter with you?" And he goes, "Nothing." My mom goes, "You guys want to eat something?" And my dad's like, "Never again."
I saw that. I saw Pet Sematary too, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that was a good one."
And he always found it hilarious that a group of us, we always went to all the haunted houses, and always, hey, can you take us to the drive-in? What's playing? Friday the 13th. No.
Well, no. My brother will never forgive me for taking him to see Carrie. And we didn't really know that much about it going in. But that last scene where, he reaches out of the grave. It's the very last scene. It reaches. I don't know if you got.
I remember. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Karen, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Karen has seen every scary.
Oh, okay.
And like you don't understand.
Like boys that are bringing Carrie up. He's like Carrie, but scared the heck out. And we leaped into each other's arms when that happened. Actually, we were that was a pretty frightening ending scene, actually. But
very cool. Tomorrow during our Tom Savini panel, Joe Hill will be on it as well. Joe Hill actually is Stephen King's son.
Oh.
So it's really cool. They're going to be talking about their little interaction back in the day on Creep Show and all those other ones. But Terrence, I want to thank you for bearing with the technical difficulties. Absolutely had an awesome time. But we've got to scramble because we've got our next Friday the 13th panel coming up. So guys, if you can
say hi to my friends on the Friday 13th franchise.
guys, if you guys want to hang around, we'll be right back.
You are creative, right? You always knew that you would love to work in movies, special makeup effects, creating amazing monsters and characters.
I actually think our students get spoiled sometimes because, they have this giant special effects lab down the street.
This is a film studio. This is like the old days of MGM or Paramount. They're making movies here. They need makeup artists. This is why it's like a film studio. Here is a film program, and there's an assembly line of makeup artists in the makeup effects program.
I can't count how many productions we've collaborated on here.
You learn every aspect of the industry, and you get a degree. Graduates work on just about every big film and TV show out there. Make monsters, make movies at Douglas Education Center. Anything but ordinary.
Why are you on that side now?
I don't know. You're in charge of the screen.
This is too much for me. This is way too many buttons to touch. I start getting ADD starts kicking in. But nonetheless, let's jump into it. Kat, who's on the panel next?
All right. So our next panel of esteemed, what do we call them? Esteemed guests, esteemed weirdos, esteemed horror icons, as they are from the film Friday the 13th Part 4, aka the final chapter. So these are the people who were tasked with finally killing Jason Voorhees, or at least at the time. So
first up in welcoming Mr. Joe Zito.
Oh yeah.
Hey Joe.
Hi.
How are you?
You guys, sure. I'm good.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Where are you at, Joe?
I'm in Thailand.
Oh wow!
Well, I was wondering why it's daylight. I'm sitting there going, "Oh, man.
It's daylight and it's burning daylight." Sorry about the background, but
I know it's great.
I'm sure it's beautiful though.
It's pretty nice, actually. If I could show you out there, there's the river. It's beautiful.
Our other next guest up is Barney Cohen.
Hey,
Barney.
Hey,
Barney.
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Barney, good to see you, Barney.
Good to see you.
And we also have Bonnie Hellman. How are you, Bonnie?
I'm good.
Bonnie.
Joe.
Hi, Bonnie. Oh, it's been 120 years.
It has been. I'm great. I'm great.
So, how long has it been?
It's been
82, 83 that we shot it?
1984, I think.
Was it 84?
I think we shot in 84 and released in 85, I think. Something like that. When we were all kids.
We were all kids.
See, Bonnie, you've kept working a lot, and we get a chance to see you when you work, but guys like me and Barney, you don't really get to see us, and so you probably don't recognize me, because I looked way different back then. I had like really long shoulder length hair.
I remember my audition with you.
Yeah, yes, of course. I remember very, very. Actors always are surprised by that. We're studying you so carefully. We remember you forever. You forget us.
Never.
And Barney and I have gotten to look the same over the years. We used to look different, but over the decades,
we have grown together.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, what was it like taking on Jason? Come on.
Well, Jason took me out.
Dude, let's talk about your death.
It was so much fun to shoot. It was the first time I've ever done anything like this. I'm mostly comedy. I mean, I grew up doing comedy in New York theater. And then when I moved out here, I did a lot of sitcoms. So it was really fun. I'd never worked with special effects before. But of course, my scene ultimately is comedic. It's horrific and then comedic. But I had no idea how we were going to do it. But it was just, it was great fun, but it was It was almost a surreal thing because we're out in the middle of this beautiful canyon in the middle of LA, and you feel like, wait a minute, oh, I was in Los Angeles 5 minutes ago, and here we are. And we shot the beginning scene, the hitchhiking, the beginning of the hitchhiking scene early in the week. I was there all week, and we didn't get to the effect till the last day. And you basically get one shot at it because the makeup takes so long. I mean, my makeup took about 4 hours to do. And so you got to get it right the first time.
And we rarely do, but yeah.
Yeah, but with we did.
You know, Bonnie, I remember, our audition very well. And I remember also having conversations with Barney about your character and your character's death. Because, one of the things you have to think a lot about when you're constructing a movie like this is each of these scenes is a big signal to the audience of what they're going to expect and how the film is going to pay off for them and what mood they should be in. And actually, I have to say, Barney has always been wiser than I have ever been on any of our, joint productions, because I was opposed to your scene, not because of you. This was before what we knew you, but just on the page, because I thought it was too light and too comedic. And Barney argued for it and won the argument. Thank goodness, because fans always speak to me about your scene. And I think it was a very good thing to have, because there was so much, brutal darkness, especially in the beginning, with Jason dead and finding him in the morgue. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was a very, very good balance. And I think it also let the audience know they can be prepared for anything here, so that's why people always speak to me about your scene. So it was really a success. Your performance made it a success, actually.
Well, thank you.
And Barney,
it's interesting because in films like The Exorcist, after each of the really horrific scenes, there would always be something comedic because the audience, they need a break every once in a while, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Joe taught me a couple of things. One of the things he taught me, he said, by the way, I wasn't a horror guy. I'm still not a horror guy. But Joe said, look, don't think up gruesome ways to kill these guys. Just make people that we all like and respond to, and then whatever we do to them will be horrible.
But that's really an important thing. That's a critically important thing, because I think that when you're constructing a movie like this, because remember, we start out, there's nothing on the page. We know the history of Jason. We know the history of Friday the 13th. But, as you can see in the future films, it's taken to all crazy places. So, it's a responsibility to try to map out what the experience is going to be. And yeah, Barney is right. Our conversations were about the characters. Just make them people, we don't have to have all the cliches that we've seen in the past in horror films. Try to make them as real as we can. And, we'll figure out how to kill them, but you figure out how to make them, people. And I think that's part of why, the film, that's part of why it works for me now when I watch it, because I see Barney's characters.
So
and,
I got a question for Barney and Joe. So Barney, you said a second ago that you're not a horror guy. My question was, how did you go from like Jason to Sabrina?
Okay, so all right. So first of all, I think Joe reached out to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, because he liked like a CBS after school special that I did. He liked the kids. I was a journalist at the time, but I was dabbling in film. I did a couple of CBS after school specials. When Joe reached out to me, first of all, he taught me an incredible lesson in negotiating. First of all, he didn't tell me what the title was. He said, I want you to do a movie. And I said, oh, okay, fine. He didn't tell me what it was about. And I said, okay, fine, because I'm trying to make a career in film because I've just done as much in journalism as I could. Not true, I went up for 10 years, I mixed the two. But he said to me, so what do you want? And I gave him a number out of my head, and he said to me, okay, we'll do that number. And I realized, oh my God, never do that again. Never put out the first number. But I'm very happy that I wound up doing it. wound up making a lot of money through residuals and all kinds of things. What happened was, when he told me what it was, I had heard of Friday the 13th. I'd never seen it. I hadn't seen a horror movie, I don't know, I'm dating myself, since Creature from the Black Lagoon. But
flick.
I was living on the Upper West.
That's one of my mom's favorite movies.
It's a great
I
movie.
grew up watching
It's
them.
so scary. I mean, I was only 8 at the time, and I had gone to it with my friends after playing Little League and getting beamed. But when that monster comes out and the underwater at you in 3D, I threw up.
Which is something that happens at screenings all the time with Barney,
but there you go. Yeah. But I was living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And on the East Side, on Lexington Avenue, there was a theater that was playing a triple feature of Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th Part 3. So I hop in a cab, and I hightail it across town. I watch all 3 movies. I get out, hop in a cab, come back. Midway through the 86th Street transverse, I said to the cabbie, when you get to Central Park West, go around the circle, go around the block, and come back. I need to go back to the theater, because I realized I had closed my eyes at all the hits. I had seen them with my eyes open. So that's it. The closest I've come to horror is when I was a teenager, a pre-teenager, under the covers reading Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that.
But Barney, people are always surprised by that. I mean, I also, I have actually perfected something. If I'm in a movie theater watching a horror film, and I don't want people to know that I'm terrified by it, I stare at the head of the person sitting in front of me, like. So I am sort of looking ahead, if anybody glances, but I fool them. No, I'm scared of horror, films as well. And I met a young director out here in Thailand, actually, who directed a very good film. I say very good. It's a scary horror film for me. It's called The Maid. It's in Thai. You guys probably won't make it out there to, for you guys to see it. But he was a young director doing the film, and I thought he did a good job. And I told him how much it scared me. And he said, well, how can it scare you? You make horror films. You know how this stuff is done. And I said, that's how I can make horror films, because they scare me. And they still scare me now. And I watch them. I like them. I look away. I stare at a lot of strangers' heads. But still, that's why they work for me, and that's why I want to continue to make them.
It is amazing.
Barney, we should make another one, Barney.
Absolutely.
I have a couple of ideas we should get together on. We should make another one.
Absolutely. I also want to make a trip to Thailand one of these days.
Oh, well, we have room for you here.
So, yeah, I can see that. I can sleep curled up in that blue chair over there. The amazing thing of it, remember there was a movie called Last House on the Left? Sean Cunningham and the other guy.
Wes Craven.
Yeah, thank you. And the ads for it were, this was something they asked me to remake or sequelize after the film I did with Joe. And the answer was just keep repeating, it's only a movie, it's only a movie, it's only a movie. And you can only repeat that for so long. And depending on the directors and the actors and the writing, you can't repeat it at all. You get sucked right into it. And that's why you need other people's heads.
So, Barney, who wins, Sabrina or Jason?
Well, okay, I can only put this in terms of the Hollywood party. When somebody comes up to me and I stick my hand out, I have to, and by the way, this is not in any way a reflection on Friday the 13th, because this is what happens. In my head, I'm thinking, do I stick my hand out and say, Barney Cohen, creator of Forever Night, the vampire detective thing, or Barney Cohen, creator of Sabrina the Teenage Witch? And originally, I thought I should do Sabrina the Teenage Witch with women. But it turns out that all the women like the Forever Night, the vampire played by Rutland Davies. But in all of these conversations, eventually somebody says, didn't you do Friday the 13th, the final chapter? So that's constantly in people's minds as well. And going back to Sabrina, I went to Sabrina the same way I went to Friday the 13th. Somebody asked me. In fact, it was Melissa Joan Hart. And I said, okay, I know the people are Archie Comics. You want to play Josie from Josie and the Pussycats? And she said, yeah. And so I took her up to Mamaroneck, where Archie Comics was. And they said, oh man, we just sold it for that movie that Tara Reid was in. They said, what about Sabrina the Teenage Witch? And I had forgotten that Sabrina the Teenage Witch was in the comic book. I only remembered the 22 Barbera cartoons. So I said, can I see it? They gave me 70 comic books. I read them. I said, sure, let's do that. And that's how most of my career, I don't really have a career. I just walk around and people attack me.
Well, hey, listen.
Like I say to him in an event like this, Barney, we should, have a horror idea. Let's go ahead and talk about it. And we end up, working on it. And sometimes it becomes a movie, and sometimes it's just something we ended up working on. But yeah, that's how it happens.
Joe, and don't think I'm letting you off that easy, because I have the burning question.
Burning question. Okay.
Who wins, Jason versus Chuck Norris?
Well, that's really something, because both of them spend a lot of time in the woods, so they know their way around out there. Well, on a T-shirt, Chuck always wins.
There you
go. I don't know if he gets in the woods with our Jason, and if I can bring in Savini, to help me out with this, as he's done on 5 different movies. I'm afraid Chuck's going to have his hands full for the first time.
Joe, quick question: are you joining us tomorrow? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, I haven't been invited.
Here, I'm inviting you right now. Can you join? Would you like to join us tomorrow for the Tom panel?
Sure, I can do that.
I will. I'm gonna put in the chat my email address, and then we'll connect. Okay.
Okay, sure.
I have a question for Joe. I always do a little prep before these things. So I went back and I read the Wikipedia on Friday the 13th. And it talked about the eventual killing of Jason. And it mentioned that at some point I wanted to, and this is true, I wanted to bear Kimberly Beck's breast. And because I had this idea. Joe had said to
me, we know the idea.
Way past that. Joe had said to me, we want to really end it. This is really to be the end. This is early in the process. How do we figure out how to kill this undying thing? And I said, well, you have to make a human first. So I figure it's a 2-step process. We flick off his mask so we can see his actual human face. And then he sees Kimberly and he reaches out to touch her breast because an idea is forming in her head that there are better things to do than cut people up. And at that point, he's become fully human and Corey Feldman can kill him. At the end, we didn't do the bearing of the breast scene. And I was not on set, nor talking with Joe at the time. I was doing my thing and he was doing his. So what the hell happened, Joe? How did we wind up not doing that?
Okay, look, this is actually kind of interesting, I hope, to people who are interested in how movies get made. A lot of ideas, and, many of them, sorry, Barney, crackpot. A lot of crackpot ideas, come up during the conversations, and you have to allow yourself to do those fringe things, to think those fringe things, So Barney had another thing that I said, no, this is impossible. This can never happen. He wanted Jason to actually get in the car and try to drive, and so. It's a process by which you spitball very, very broad things and then bring it, and it hones itself down into something. You're not completely sure what it is. And in the end, you hope it makes sense. And you've picked the comedic moments, the right ones, and thrown out the wrong ones. And you've picked the scary moments, the right ones, and thrown out the wrong ones. I'm extremely careful in casting. I see a lot of people for every role. Everybody thinks I just pluck somebody off the street. That is not true. I see 100 people for a role to make sure it feels right on the screen, finding all those characters. So yeah, fringe ideas are there. No, I knew the important thing about Trish and Tommy that was different from other films. Trish was not just dealing with Jason. She had to protect her brother. That was the most important thing, more than protecting herself. She had to protect her brother. She would tell him to run and she would stay in combat with Jason. So this was different from what we normally see. We normally see someone trying to figure out how to defeat the beast or survive the beast. But, you know, she had a completely different orientation. So the important thing for me was to focus it on Tommy. And so that's why Tommy becomes the, you know, the focus of the ending, and you know, not the traditional damsel in distress.
Two thoughts on this. One is Jason drives a car. The essence of Jason drives a car was picked up in Young Frankenstein at the end, where Peter Boyle does Putting on the Ritz. It was that kind of thing.
That's where it belongs, Barney. That's where it belongs.
What?
That's where it belongs.
Okay, no. We're going to continue the argument for another 10 years. But I will say this about Joe. Of all the scripts I've written that have turned into movies or television series or whatever, and they're not that many, but all of them, Joe was the most protective of any script I've ever written, in the sense of what I wrote went on screen. And I've always honored and thanked him for that.
No. I fight the studio and I fight whoever I can. I mean, you know, to the extent that I'm capable of doing that. And, you know, I don't win all the battles. But by the time we finish the script, by the time Barney is done with it and we've worked together on it, that's the movie I want to make. And I'm not resistant to, you know, new ideas that could be better. And there have been some. But mostly I am resistant to throwing, you know, that work out and, you know, and doing some other movie that we didn't birth ourselves.
Well, I want to get to Bonnie before we have to run, but I have a question for Bonnie and Joe, if that's okay.
Okay.
So, real quick, who was the actor that killed you?
I misheard the question.
It was not the actor playing Jason.
It was Savini.
It was.
Yep. It was
Savini.
Tom. It was Tom
And
Savini.
I remember because there was a real knife involved in one of the shots, and he just said to me, "I'm going to move your head. Do not fight me, and you will be. I will keep you safe." I trusted him.
This is a very important thing. This is actually a very important thing because you have real, you know, of course, special effects weapons, but some real ones in proximity to actors, which is why Tom could do that, because he knew exactly how to handle it. Also, Ted White was brilliant as Jason because he was an experienced stunt guy and he could be around actors, not just some guy wearing a mask that you take out of the crew. He's not the caterer. He's a professional, a lifelong professional stunt person. He knew what to do, and he was a great Jason because of that.
So before we go, I do have one question for you, Joseph. So there's one scene in this that's kind of just always stuck with me that I don't feel like a lot of people really talk about, and that's the death of the mother, or the dream sequence where she may or may not still be alive. Is she really dead? And I know there was a significance between Jason and his mother, and was that really a big part of it for you?
Yes. No, look, actually that came about in a strange way. I don't want to go on too long because I know we don't have a lot of time on this, but the original owner of the Friday the 13th franchise was pushing for an additional scene, a scary scene tag at the end. Okay, so we thought of many different things. I believe that the mother is dead. Okay, I believe the mother is dead. We did that scene thinking that, you know, it was a strange thing. It was sort of like a dream sequence, and so it was a fantasy. It was a horror fantasy. Actually, I was very, very much in favor of throwing it out, because I wanted the focus of this once again was, you know, Tommy and Jason and the characters, the human characters, not just putting an extra scare in at the end and taking the focus away from, you know, the humans that Barney crafted. So I was really very happy that that scene wasn't used. I thought it was the best of the things we came up with a lot of ideas. Tom was inventing ideas. I was inventing ideas. We had all this stuff, and none of them were good, really. The ending that we used, I think, was the best choice, and I'm happy we did that.
Very cool. Bonnie, I got a question for you real quick. You have been in some of my favorite shows, everything from Weeds to The League, and you also were, I hate to admit it, but I I am a Gleeker. Isn't that what they called it? You were on Glee, right?
I was on Glee. I recurred on Glee, actually.
And you also are a native Pittsburgh now because you were on Sullivan's Son. So you can say Yinzer.
Never been to Pittsburgh, but that was a great show to be on. Lately, I've been on the in commercials more than anything. I've had.
But did you ever decide who you were going to vote for?
In that election, yes.
If you haven't seen it, Bonnie played the woman on the Scaramucci Poochie sketch and the undecided voter on Jimmy Kimmel.
I have done Jimmy Kimmel about 5 times, and it's always something political.
So
I don't know why, but it's great.
Guys, listen, I hate to cut it short and let you go, but I appreciate you so much. Joe and Bonnie, in the private chat, I gave my email. We would love to have you guys come over tomorrow for Tom's meeting if you have time.
I am working tomorrow. I'm filming. So
what are you filming? Can we know?
It's a short called Melons. That's all.
We'll leave that up for interpretation.
About how maybe it's out there, and I've got a movie which is a horror thriller. I just found out is being released in the United States this summer.
And what's that?
It's called A Dark Foe.
Okay.
And it was made by a Spanish filmmaker, female. And it won a lot of film festivals and was nominated for a lot of film festivals. And I just heard from her that it is going to premiere in both the U.S. and Canada later this summer.
Bonnie, when that comes out, we'll have you back on and we'll talk about it. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah.
Very nice.
Joe,
Joe, how do I reach you? Is your IMDb information correct?
Yeah, no, I'll find you, Barney. I know how to do it. I'll give you the contact.
My IMDb is correct.
Okay. I have no idea. I don't look myself up that much,
I look up to see if it's correct.
Barney,
I look up if there's an obit or something. That's all.
Yeah, that's true.
Barney, thank you for joining us so much, man. That was awesome. And Joe, I sent you an email. If you're able, just let me know, okay?
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Guys, this has been Friday the 13th, part 4. And coming up next, Kat?
Coming up next, we have... Hold on. Next, we have Don't Answer the Phone with Robert Hammer and Flo Lawrence.
All right, guys. We'll be back in 30.
Bye.
You are creative, right? You always knew that you would love to work in movies, special makeup effects, creating amazing monsters and characters.
I actually think our students get spoiled sometimes because, they have this giant special effects lab down the street.
This is a film studio. This is like the old days of MGM or Paramount. They're making movies here. They need makeup artists. This is why it's like a film studio. Here is a film program, and there's an assembly line of makeup artists in the makeup effects program.
I can't count how many productions we've collaborated on here.
You learn every aspect of the industry and you get a degree. Graduates work on just about every big film and TV show out there. Make monsters, make movies at Douglas Education Center. Anything but ordinary.
That was fun.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, you know what? Flo and Robert have been backstage.
They've been hanging on,
and they're troopers. So let's don't. I gotta even change the banner.
Robert's been on here before me, so big kudos there.
There we go. See, did you see that banner transfer? That was. Oh, now Flo just left. Oh, we'll wait till she comes back. Anyway, there she goes.
She's back. She's back.
All right, so we're bringing over Flo Lawrence and Robert Hammer. Hey, Flo.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks for waiting. And then, hey, Robert.
Wow.
Hi.
So I take it it's been a while.
Yeah. Hi, Bobby.
Hi, how are you doing, Flo? You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to see you.
How long has it been since you two have seen each other?
42 years.
Oh my God. Well, actually, I saw you a couple of 3 years later at the vet's when my dog got a rattlesnake bite. Is that not true?
At the what? I'm sorry.
At a vet.
Broke up there a little bit.
Oh, I thought I saw you 2 or 3 years after that, but it's been a very long time.
It could very well be. It may have been because after we made the movie, we had to find a distributor, which took almost a year. And because it was funded by private money. So the movie really didn't get released till mid 1980. And for some reason, it became insanely popular in the state of Florida. It was the most popular movie of, low budget horror film was in Miami. And then it was also popular later in New York and in Los Angeles, of course. But I thought I hadn't seen you again, but it was quite a while, so I don't remember seeing you again, and I don't know why we didn't keep in touch because you're such a talented actress.
Thank you.
I think you were the only really trained actress in the movie, the only one, besides Nicholas, who was a Shakespearean actor. He had actually trained in England, and he knew all the Shakespeare plays. And but he was funny because when he read the script, there was on the last page it had like a little comment about the scene, and it was something like, "Oh, put the green book on the bed," and it had nothing to do with the script. It was just a note. When he did the audition, he read that note. He thought it was part of the script, and it made no sense whatsoever. It had nothing to do with the scene of the audition. And I said, "This guy really is crazy, because he will read anything and believe it and make it part of his soul." And he thought that was part of the movie. And he thought, "Well, I thought it didn't make sense. Maybe he was a little crazy or schizophrenic, and he was going off to be another person." And so he said this meaningless thing.
That's funny. Nicholas Worth, I stayed in touch with a little bit off and on. And although he's passed away, I just want to say what a wonderful, kind, simply generous human being he was. I really liked him.
Absolutely. He was one of the kindest, sweetest, most giving. All the end shots of the movie that were done where he was alone and he would go in that living room, which was my living room. And we had, there was a fireplace, and he'd walk around and he'd do these ranting and ragings. And then there was lots of scenes of where he walked through Hollywood. That was shot after the main production was done, because we had 18 days, and that's it. Well, Nicholas and I worked 5 days more. I did all the camera work because I was a cameraman before I shot Don't Answer the Phone. So, in fact, in the movie, all the handheld shots I had done. And I think I'm one of the early guys who did the sneak around camera, be real, shoot the hide behind a wall and then sneak into the room. And that type of photography, which I think now is very much considered the vocabulary of filming. But I hadn't seen it before. But I thought, would it be interesting if I just walked around like I was this third eye that could see everything and traipse around? And so that's why we had so much handheld work done. Well, all the work that was done afterwards with Nicholas was just him and I. And I did the lighting, and I did the sound, and he did the acting. We did everything. It was really made in the last 5 days by ourselves. And of course, we did a lot of, guerrilla filming. That is, we never got a permit.
No permits, yay.
Agreement or anything like that. We just said, we're going to shoot over that street. And the cops would come by. And they'd say, what are you doing here? I said, what, you didn't get the mayor's memo? We got a certificate from him. And then we'd pull out a certificate. And it would say, Mayor, City of Los Angeles. And, I had Scorpion Productions full permission to photograph on all streets in Los Angeles. And then the cops would call in. And by the time they would call in to go get, do we really belong there? We were done, jumped in the car, and just drove away. And we hadn't broken any laws, so they weren't going to chase after us. So we got our shot. So, when he made that call to you and he says, hi, this is Ramon. He had to play he played a Cuban every time he called into your radio show. And that was the shot where all those, which I thought was part of Hollywood, but it had all these antique cars of Mercedes and Austin Healey's, and that was the background. And there was a payphone there back when the days when they had payphones on the street. And he made that call to your studio, and we cut between him in the phone booth and you in the studio. And you knew, you could sense from his voice, because you were this genius psychiatrist who knew that he had killed somebody else. And then we cut to the scene where he actually does kill somebody. A lot of killing in that movie, probably more than needed to be. I think we could have milked more by less. But the producer really demanded, you have to have a lot of nudity and a lot of killing. And I wanted to have bloodshed, but they did no bloodshed. Just, TNA and beautiful women, and that's all that's important. And that one scene when the 3 girls come out and he kills them, there were 4 women. And I said, this is ridiculous. Nobody walks into an apartment with 4 women as roommates and get killed. The women kill the guy. And it doesn't work out that way. They have knives, they have kitchens, they have something. They will not just humbly die. So I actually cut the 4th person out of the movie. It was, even though it was a big argument and they were going to fire me, I just cut it out. I was doing the editing. So I just took the scene out. I said, this is beyond even me. I couldn't do it.
Hey, Bobby, thanks for hiring me. That was the first big film I had. You know that?
No, it was the first film that you've done? No.
It was a big deal for me.
So, Flo, you went from Dr. Gale all the way to one of my favorite movies.
Which is?
Over the Top. Did you notice I had a transition? I had to talk about it.
I hear people say that, and I'm not sure why it's one of their favorite movies. I don't know. Tell me why.
Well, because it might be on IMDb. I never looked you up on IMDb. I know when you auditioned, I felt you were a good match for Westmoreland. In the end, I think it was a mistake. I had somebody better, and I should have went with my instincts, but the producer said, well, I'm not giving you any more money if you don't hire this guy, Westmoreland. And in the end, in the film industry, it's the money that moves what you can pay for. So that's how Westmoreland got the job, because he was supposed to be the lead romantic. But I just wanted real people. I thought Ben Frank was marvelous.
Yeah, Ben Frank.
He was a true professional actor. He went later to make a TV commercial about not smoking, And it ran so much. He made a fortune on that commercial about not smoking. And he did a brilliant job.
I think he was smoking a film, wasn't he?
He was what?
I think he smoked in Don't Answer the Phone, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did all the time. And I said, you want to smoke? You smoke. You know, I was very freedom with the actors because I figure this is their profession and they know the best. And I spotted the ones that believed in the script and said, it's kind of stupid and stinks, but I'll make it work. And all the actors, they just said, I'll make this work. I'll believe it, and it will work.
You made it work. You put some work in on it too. Not only were you the writer, director, and producer of the film. So what was your big inspiration? What was the inspiration behind the film?
For the movie? What started the whole film to begin with was at the time I was shooting rock and roll, movies, which was a big thing with MTV in those days, but we had it's called the Hollywood Strangler, and that was the original title of the movie. And I even have T-shirts made saying Hollywood Strangler, and it was the Bianco and his cousin were actually going around killing women and dumping them off the roads all throughout Hollywood. And then we had the Manson family, and I thought to myself, what are these people like? What does a real killer think? What does somebody feel and think? And what's in their soul? What's in their mind? How does a killer's mind work? And I thought, well, if I could, get a script about it. I'm not a writer. So I got a hold of this agent, and she was so wonderful to me. She was really a professional agent who handled a lot of good people. She says, well, I have this one guy, and he kind of just started, and he really needs money badly. And she says, I want $5,000 for this script, which is like, that's ridiculous. That's a day's pay for a writer. So I paid her $2,500, and then she never bothered to collect the other $2,500. I mean, she knew we were down to pennies to make the movie. We made the movie for less than $300,000, including post-production, negative cutting, and everything. So that was my original thing. I felt if I made a movie about it, I would learn something about it. In truth, I really didn't. I don't know what goes on in the mind of a killer. I don't know what it feels like. I mean, I'm not going to do it to find out.
I hope not.
And I felt this was, you be careful. If the phone rings tonight, Chad, don't answer the phone.
Absolutely.
But
I have a funny little story. I got a call to go to England to promote this movie, and they actually thought it was When a Stranger Calls. But when it sink into them that it was called Don't Answer the Phone, then they changed it.
That was a good movie. There were a lot of movies similar to that, and the owner of Crown, he was very clever in how he promoted things. I picked that title specifically because it had parts of famous movies that were horror movies that would make you think it's that movie. So it would be this low budget movie and you'd be expecting some other movie. What made the movie work in the end was the cast and the crew. We had the most wonderful crew. And I was very honest with them. I don't think the cast was there the first night, but the crew was there. And I said, listen, it's my first time I've ever made a film. I've read a few books. I've seen a lot of movies. I did a lot of rock and roll documentaries, but I know nothing about making movies. And they said, if you trust us, we'll get the movie done. And this crew brought me through everything. The script advisor, she kept track of all the lines. She kept track of everything that was done, told me everything, every mistake I was making. And then there was this other lady who was, in fact, when you think about it, the best members of the crew were women. And I'm glad now that women are finally coming into filmmaking because they're fantastic. Although I was the first guy to hire a woman cameraman to be in, I guess it was commercials. I used to do Kentucky Fried
That's
Chicken
awesome.
and McDonald commercials. And I hired a woman cameraman. And so when you hired a woman, as you got Carrie Cameron, this woman was so strong, it was unbelievable.
I just want to ask Kat Wren. So Kat Wren
yes.
she was new to Don't Answer the Phone. She just watched it. She is Miss Horror Film. Here you go, Kat. Give your review.
This movie scared the shit out of me. I'm not kidding.
You're kidding.
There are moments in it where I had to pause it because I was like, oh, okay, so this is happening. Especially a few of the scenes where he's actually he has his victim or whatever, and just some of the face slaps, I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, just a savage killer and very, very well paced with a lot of the scenes. Hold on.
She got a dog.
That's okay. I can hear you. Like earphones are a good idea. It brings in the.
So
Sorry, I have
we both have puppies right now, and if you can hear her puppy like
he prances on the hardwood.
And I don't know if you guys have heard. Mine is laying on my feet, and he's literally snoring. He's 12 weeks.
Oh, that should be in the movie.
Sleepy.
That
so
doggy
tired.
needs to be a star.
Nothing
Can
like
you
a
make him
dog.
move? Can you make him move for this?
He can't. He's sleeping still.
Okay.
This is a lazy 12-week-old bull mastiff.
Oh my God. I thought it was a grown-up. That dog's going to be big.
Oh, it's a baby.
I mean, really big.
So, Flo, I got it. I'll put the hat on backwards when I talk to you, but Over the Top's one of my favorites. And you asked why. I mean, I think it was his first movie with his son, his actual son. Stallone's actual son was in it.
That was his son?
I believe that was his actual son.
I had no idea.
But it's one of my favorites. And guys, we're coming up on that mark. We've got the cast of the other ones, but I want to tell you guys thank you so much for joining us. Flo, you also were in one of Kat Wren's The Lords of Salem flick. I love that film. So what are you working on now?
I was in Mank, which I'm thrilled to have had a little tiny part in an Academy Award-winning film. So I'm writing, I perform, and actors like to act. So I don't have anything right away. But I do want to say one thing to Bobby. Bobby, there's a man in England that would really like to interview you. He interviewed me regarding Klaus Kinski, put a book together. So I will get your information from Timothy or someone, okay? Because I'd like to pass.
That's terrific. Thank you, Flo. I want to tell you a couple of things about Flo. Flo was one of the most dedicated people. In some of the scenes, like when Nicholas attacked her, he really did attack her. And they talked about how they were going to do the scene, and they sort of choreographed it. And she says, well, it comes time for you to slap me. She said, don't fool around, slap me. And so he gives her a little slap in the rehearsal. And she says, what's wrong with you? Have you never slapped a woman in your life? And he said, no, I never did. He said, make believe I'm your mother and give me a good crack. And then he just wham, and it went in on the film, and he really did smack her. And I'm going like, I can't call cut. I mean, this is crazy. So, but he really tied her up. He
He
really
did tie me
choked
up.
her. I mean,
That
you
was a
were
pretty good
bruised
scene.
and beaten. You put up with everything. Everything. There was nothing. When that film was over, you had nothing left to give. You did everything, and you were so good with some of the actors. I don't know if you remember this guy, Lee Purcell. He played the part of a Vietnam vet, and you had a scene with him, and it was so fantastic. And he cried and he told you all he had PTSD, which we didn't know about at the time, but you were telling him he had a nervous disorder that was making him nervous. And it was such a moving scene. And they said there wasn't time for it. There really was. They just didn't like the idea there was going to be a guy on that long or something. I mean, one of the things I learned from that film as a director is you really sometimes just have to fight like a cat and dog, and you have to just say, fire me. But this has got to stay, because that scene between you and Lee Purcell was dynamite, and would have taken that movie from a B horror movie to an A first class movie, because you were so brilliant with him, and you brought so much out of him, and you were so good with Denise Gerlich, I think is her second name. And she was an excellent actress. And during the audition, she cried real tears. I mean, she was sobbing her heart out. And then on the day of the filming, she got so nervous and she couldn't do anything. And she couldn't remember her names. And you took her aside and you said, well, and then you just talked to her. I know a little bit of what you told her. I don't know the whole conversation, but I know you said, this director, he doesn't care what you say. Just get the gist of what he's trying to get you to say. So he wants you to, doesn't want to say that your father raped you. He just wants you to think that's what he did. And just make up your own words, do your own thing, and be your own self. And then you said a bunch of other things, and she got so calm. And I don't know, you gave her 12 acting lessons in like 30 minutes. You spent about 30 minutes with her. And then she came on, and I just waited. And then you came out and you said, she's ready. And she came out, and she didn't really cry. She acted crying. But it was convincing enough. It was real enough. And I was so appreciative of you, because she was ready to leave. She said, I can't do it. I'm so nervous. I just can't do the scene. And I have to leave. And then you said, let me just talk to her for a little, just a few minutes. And I guess you thought you were a psychiatrist, because if anyone ever threw themselves in a role, you did, because you just examined her, talked to her, and just brought everything out of her. And she had no fear. And she went on and she did her scene, and she did it brilliantly.
Thank you very much, Bob.
I always think of that. But you know, the crew was amazing. They taught me about, when you shoot over the shoulder, and then you shoot over the other person's shoulder. I didn't know that. And I wasn't embarrassed to say I didn't know anything. And so everybody from, I don't know if you remember the lady who used to do all the set dressings. She knew a lot about making movies. And she just told me all kinds of things. And let's see, who else? Well, of course, my wife did the makeup. I remember that. And she did the hair. I think she did your hair.
Yes.
And she was always putting curls in it. And I don't know whether you liked it or not, but she had her vision of what you should look like and what your makeup should be. And sometimes she'd say, no, do it this way. And she says, please, you do your job, I'll do my job. And then you guys, that's right, she did some kind of a thing where she put the hair up. I don't know whose idea that was, whether it was yours or hers, but It changed your whole appearance. You know, you suddenly look like businesswoman, important doctor. You know, it really just changed you from this, you know, sort of beautiful, sexy young lady into a doctor. Not, you know, not particularly alluring, pretty, but not sexy. And but I mean, everything, every day you came with, I'm here to make this movie. This is what I'm giving. This is not a day's pay for me. This is a movie that I'm making. And I think everybody, Ben Frank was dedicated that way. I'm trying to think of who the other characters, but of course, you know, the whole movie, in a way, it is really you. And
Nicholas.
I can't remember his name. He's dead, unfortunately.
Nicholas.
Nicholas Worth was so, he did everything. When he was lifting the bars, and I don't know if there was a scene where he lifts these bars, and he keeps doing it again, and then he puts more weight on and more weight on. And I'm going, well, you know, he could get hurt, or you know, he could drop it, and I got a dead take. He pushed himself to get as much weight to be lifting. And he scared me. And apparently he did something like 250 pounds in a bench press, which is quite a bit. And later he told me, he says, I'm a weightlifter. That's what I do. But it was a wonderful experience for me.
Very appreciative to be in the film, Bobby. Thank you. Very appreciative.
Oh, you know.
So
no flow, no film.
Of course. So I know we talked a little bit about the budget and some of the locations and everything that went into this film, but what was the actual shooting schedule like? Was it like a tight schedule?
It was 18 days.
Okay.
We actually went out and we spent, I think, $75 for what they call a production board. And you have these strips that you put in, and you have take every scene and you put the scene in of what you're going to shoot that day and what's possible. And you put it down for each day. So if you miss a scene on a certain day, you can move it to another day. And you can move the strips around. Like you have an outdoor shot and it rains that day. So you switch to, we're going to do the indoor bedroom shot that day. And you pull that strip out and you put it on the day you were going to shoot indoors. That was like a big thing. So we had 18 days. And then we added the 5 days that me and Nicholas worked alone. So in altogether it was 23 days, which is actually a lot when you think like Charlie Chaplin made movies in 3 days without a script. So
wow. So
it was tight. You had to move fast. The crew moved fast. I think they knew better than I did because I was sort of slow, calm, relaxed about everything, rushed through nothing. And the crew they were always moving so fast. Everybody was in a rush about everything. And I couldn't figure out why until day 16. And I had suddenly 4 strips left on the script. And I said, I see why they're all in a hurry. You don't have much time.
Well, the end product was phenomenal. I can tell you that from my own personal perspective. But I do think we are going to have to wrap it up here pretty soon. But guys, where can we find you? What have you been doing lately? Is there anything you guys want to promote or talk about?
What did I do after the film?
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you very much, because when the film was over, I felt I was a failure. I had made a terrible movie. But then only to find that Mel actually loved it and thought it was great and didn't see any of the flaws that I saw. So it wasn't the movie I imagined, but it was the movie that I made that people appreciated. But afterwards, I went through 4 development deals. I did one with Crown, and then I did one with Paramount, and I had a 2-picture deal with TriStar. At TriStar, with a funny deal, because that was a big movie company, and there were two good movies. One was about this store. A guy worked at a department store, and he managed to lock the doors and kept everybody until nighttime. And then he hunted them down into the department store. And you thought he was a mannequin, but he really wasn't. It was. I thought it would have been a great movie, but I had to. On Thursday night, they fired every producer and executive at TriStar. It was called, I remember, on Variety and the Hollywood Times, I think it's called, big headlines, Thursday Night Massacre at TriStar. And all the producers were, killed, were fired. They weren't killed. Got to be careful which words I choose.
With this crowd,
and they were gone. So then when they brought in the next producer, they said, well, I'm not going to make this other producer's film. I'm going to make my film, my script, my ideas. And so we went along with it. But they had paid me really enough. I think we lived about 3-4 years on the money that they paid me just for the development deal. And because it was a two film deal, and then Paramount, they just decided not to make the movie, and Crown, they just didn't have the money. They wanted to make it, but they ran out of money, and eventually I think they sold the Crown to somebody else. And I know this movie has been sold. Crown sold it to somebody else, who sold it to somebody else. And I think it ended up being bits and pieces, were sold all over the world. So I had a son at that time in 1981 who was really a gift from God. Probably the greatest son one could ever imagine. And when I had him, I said, oh, I can't do this movie thing, because if you have to support people, I have a wife, beautiful, gorgeous wife, a son. I have to keep a house. I have my moral ideas as to what should be a good family. I can't work for 5-6 months and then not for 2 years. I have to bring in a paycheck every day. What am I going to do? And I had a degree in art history from what was then called CCNY, which is now called CUNY, CUNY, which is the City University of New York. And I studied art history, and I opened up some galleries. Then I took up photography. Decided I wanted to make my own art. And so then I came out to Hollywood, and then I made this movie. And then after the movie, after 4 pictures, I said, well, development deals are no good. You never come out with anything. You come out with money. You eat, you have a house, but you get clothes, but you don't make a movie. And I can't bring up a family on that. So I went back to school. I went to what they called CSUN, which was Cal State University. And I studied accounting. And I got a bachelor's degree in accounting. And then I got a master's degree from Pepperdine in international finance. So Pepperdine is like a big school here. When I went there, which was quite some time ago, it wasn't so famous, but they have now considered one of the finest legal and business schools in the country. And they have a very unique system. They had workshops that they use with computers, and you'd all go in a room, and that class would run a business, and it was all computer simulated. Things would happen, like if you owned the airline, suddenly a plane would crash, and what were you going to do? And then there was a strike, and what were you going to do? And it was how you handled all these catastrophes that could happen to a company, and how you would work together as a team. Because Pepperdine's thing of schools are working as a team. So I got my master's from Pepperdine, and then I went to work for various companies, and I ended up in Silicon Valley. And for 35 years, I worked for various very successful internet companies. I worked for a company, and Chad will probably know every one of them, because I know he knows his history. I know he knows what CNET is.
Yeah.
If I say CNET to Chad, he goes, "Oh, of course, yeah. I read it every month. I even still read it, because it has everything about every new chip, every new invention, every new thing that's coming out. And it's all has to do with the internet and with anything electronic." And bless you. And so they bought this company called My Simon, which was the first company that ever came out with a comparison shopper on the internet. So you could go and say, "I want to buy a hat," and give certain information about it. And they would show you every hat that was sold on the internet, and you could comparison buy it and what it was made of and all of those things. Then that was bought by CNET, but they said that they have to, we're going to fire all these people, because if we give them another 6 months, their shares are going to vest.
Hey,
it's going to cost us a fortune.
Guys, I apologize. We ran over, and I got to bring on our next panel. So, hey,
okay. God bless
thank
them.
you so much, Robert. Flo, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad.
You guys were awesome.
So, we'll definitely circle back with you guys. Thank you, guys.
Good. Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks for holding on.
You're a doll.
Night, guys.
So, Kat Wren, we don't have time. We got to bring these guys on now. So I'm going to bring them in. You let me know. First up, we've got I got to change. Hold on. I got to change the branding.
Slumber Party Massacre.
All right, here we go. First up, Pamela Rollins.
Roy Lance.
I am so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Hi, Chad. Hi, Kat Wren. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I am so sorry. I'm just gonna say we had technical difficulty that I had to step away for, and we're gonna bring in David Milburn.
Hey there.
See, now we're in, David. We're good. We're good now.
Hey there. Hey, Pamela. Hey, Catherine. Hey,
good to see you.
We also have Aaron.
Pamela, you look amazing.
Smoke and mirrors of Hollywood. Aaron.
And we also have Jan.
Hello. How are you?
I am great, guys. First off, the question that we ask everybody every single time is, how long's it been?
40 years? 1980.
32 for me, 32 for the third one. Yeah.
But Pamela, I think we did Slumber Party Massacre in 81, 82.
You're right.
Released in 82. So you do
I'd have to have a calculator.
Yeah, the third one was 89 and released 1990. So we're looking at 31, 32 years.
Oh, right.
But in Hollywood, that's 22 years. So
it's 12. Yeah.
Just the other day.
Hey, Pamela, you went from Slumber Party Massacre to Little House on the Prairie. That's a little bit of a swing right there, right?
Such a stretch. And I have to confess that when this was released, and Aaron, was it like for a week in theaters, I think, that it aired? And some of the children from Little House went with me to see it. And I was so afraid. This is the first feature film I ever did. And so I dragged Melissa Gilbert with me the night before to watch it, so that I wouldn't be embarrassed in front of the children. And then the kids went, and I thought, oh, their parents are going to kill me for bringing them to this, but they didn't.
You got the pass.
I got the pass. It was all good.
Thank God she didn't cut you when she saw it.
I know, right?
So, Kat. Oh, did we lose Aaron?
What?
I think we lost Aaron.
Maybe.
He'll be back.
Okay.
So, Jan, you said you were in the third one as well, right?
No, not as well. I was in only the third one.
Only third one.
And it was actually, it's funny to hear, it was my first American feature film, 1989. Yes. So it's not a bad company to start with, though. You know, Jack started that as well.
Wow.
And David, you went from Archie Bunker straight into the massacre themselves, right?
Well, yeah, I can't remember. It's been so long ago, but I believe that Slumber Party Massacre was my first feature film, and you know, I was a teenager. I was one of the youngest people in the cast, and it was so interesting that right from Slumber Party Massacre, Roger contacted Amy Jones, our director, and said, you know, who should we put in this new picture? You just finished Slumber Party Massacre. Who should we put in this new picture? And she said, David Milburn. So I was called into Roger's office, and I was sitting across the desk from Roger, you know, there on San Vicente. And he said, you know, Amy Jones really likes you. She thinks you're a good actor. How would you like to go to Mexico for 3 months and be in Sorceress? So, my God, my second Roger Corman film, you know? And so I said yes. And he and I negotiated the price, and, you know, Roger. But I was so young, I said yes, 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 3 months in Mexico. And we were shooting Sorceress, where I played half boy, half goat. I guess it's the only person that would want to go into the costume. I don't know. But we shot that down in Churubusco Studios, Mexico City. And we were in the commissary every day with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was doing Conan the Barbarian at the time. Little did we know he'd become our governor and blah, blah, blah. But Roger was an amazing starter for a lot of us. And I happened to be at the Oscars the year that they honored Roger at 83. And I went over to his table because I was participating in a film called Departure, which won Best Foreign Film from Japan. So I was going over to the table to say, Roger, you know, David Milburn, Slumber Party Massacre, you know, this 83-year-old man, he was sitting down. I walked over to his table, and I'm standing over him, and he goes, and I start to say, he goes, David Milburn, Slumber Party Massacre. Wow. At the Oscars, they're honoring him. And I said, Roger, he goes, do you know what my number one, they had just opened his video online store at the time. And he goes, do you know what my number one picture is on sales? It's your picture, Slumber Party Massacre. This man is still amazing. And I have such gratitude for him. And Amy Jones.
Yes. She was wonderful.
Aaron.
Yes.
So yeah, Roger was very special. I had a similar experience when my first meeting was with Sally Madison, who's ended up directing Slumber Party Massacre 3. But she said before I even saw her or audition, she said, you got to go to Roger's office. I'm like, I have to go to Mr. Corman's office? And they said, yeah. And I said, why? Because he has to see all actors that are going to be in this movie. I'm like, I haven't even auditioned yet. She said, well, and she blinked, you know, she twinkled in her eye. We really like you. So that was it. So I sat down in front of Roger, like David just explained, and he asked me all kinds of questions completely unrelated to film. And then after that, he said, I'll just go in and, get to know Sally and let's make a movie. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
Aaron, welcome back. Were you having some difficulty?
Yeah, thank you. I lost the connection for a minute there, but I'm back now. I can hear and see everybody. So thank you. Good to see you all.
So there's one little hiccup, guys, that StreamYard has, and that's only 6 people can be on one screen. So I'm going to step away and leave you in the good hands of Cat Rent Figures and bring in
Mess.
Is she frozen? Oh.
Well, Marta
technical
is apparently
difficulties.
having some difficult with her camera, so I'm going to join back in. So, guys,
welcome back.
Tell us some good stories about on the set and some of the fun that we had.
So,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No. I thought you were pausing, but let's go.
Now, Erin, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think the day that I got drilled across the stomach, the special effects team didn't show up, so we used some of the lunch that had come in that day, which looked a bit like a stew, and they added, I think, red food coloring. It was, to me, the most red movie I think I ever remember seeing. When you watch it, there's just so much red in the blender. I mean, everywhere. But yes, I do recall that and I've told that story for years, so I hope it's really true that it was.
It's true now.
It is true now. We have made it history.
So, in essence, the lunch didn't sit too well with you.
That was good. You haven't lost it, David. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it was a great group to work with. I do. I really loved doing for me, the sword fight scene with the fireplace poker and the drill with Roller Killer. And when you watch it, if you look closely at the end, when I hit him on the back with it, you'll just see the tip of it go blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of cute because you realize it was just a rubber poker, but it wasn't a real fireplace poker.
Erin, I want to ask you, you were a co-producer or line producer, how did Amy rook you into being the pizza boy? Because you were a great pizza boy.
First of all, I don't know how many of you are aware or remember, this movie was started because Rita Mae Brown, who's a pretty well-known novelist, had written the script and written it for Corman, and he never made it. And Amy, who was a top editor at the time, wanted to direct, and she had made friends with Francis Joel, who was basically the production executive, the development executive for Roger. And Francis wanted to get the script made, and she gave it to Amy. And Amy, on her own, went out and filmed the prologue. There's like a teaser to the movie. She cast it herself. She raised the money herself. It was a 6-minute scary bit of filmmaking, and showed it to Roger, and he was he was blown away, because not only did he have a director who wanted to come and say, yeah, I want to direct a movie. She went out and did it, and did a really good job. And she was helped by the fact that her husband, Michael Chapman, was certainly one of the top 5 cinematographers of the 20th century. I mean, multiple Oscar nominee, Oscar winner for Raging Bull. So it looked pretty good. So Roger let Amy make this movie, but I had heard about this before Roger had given the picture the green light. Francis had told me Amy wanted to make a movie, and I was Roger's assistant and production manager for several pictures, and I went and met Amy, and I said, I want to produce this movie. And she didn't know me. She just knew I worked for Roger. So, and then I went to Roger and I said, I've met with Amy. I know you're making this movie. But Roger's idea was, now Amy, as David and Pam, I know you remember, she looked like she was about 12. Right. She had short hair. She's small. She had big eyes. I mean, she really looked like a teenager. So Roger's idea was he's going to make this movie for no money, and no permits, no unions, nothing. just go out and shoot a movie in a house for 3 weeks. And he wanted to give it the impression, if anybody like came around, he wanted his cover, his alibi was, this is going to be like a UCLA student film. And Amy's the director. Everybody was, extremely young. And so he hired a woman who was also very young to produce the movie. And for reasons I won't go into right now, because it's kind of a long and funny story, but I ended up replacing her. So I have to say, I wasn't really roped in by Amy. I went after this job. I really wanted to do it. I really wanted to produce a picture. And, the challenge of making this movie for as little as it was made for, the production staff was 2, me and Mark Allen, who you remember was also the first AD on the movie. And we kept a running gag in the production of a line, a sheet. You know your low budget when. And every time we thought, oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this. Well, let's put that on the sheet. You know your low budget when. You take out the trash. You keep the plastic bag and dump it out so you can reuse it, because you don't want to go buy a new box of plastic bags to put in the trash cans. I mean, that's the kind of situation we were in.
I love that you're blunt and you made it Pamela's inner.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Written down somewhere.
So the other big money saving consequence we had was, you may recall that the only stunt in the movie, really, besides killing the driller killer at the end, but the only real thing you call by the stunt is when Pizza Boy gets thrown down a flight of stairs and dumped in the basement.
That's right.
So when we're prepping the movie, we're trying to think, okay, well, we can't really afford a stunt man.
That's right.
You can see where I'm going with this. So I became Pizza Boy because I was the guy who's willing to take a stair fall and save the money on hiring a stunt man to play the part.
Oh my goodness.
Aaron, were you hurt? Were you hurt after that stunt? I mean, were you sore the next morning?
So, I got to say, I did a pretty good job.
You did.
But your low budget when you can't afford stunt, so you do it yourself.
And I just want to let everybody that who is watching or watching this on the rewind, please go to Mid May Massacre and go to our autograph section. If you guys are interested in any autographs, they are up, and link is in below in the chat. So definitely check it out, guys. Jan, I love horror films, right? But you were in a film. And it was the last film that ever played at like a local theater, like a town. It was just a small one screen. And I remember having to go to the bathroom so bad. And there was these stairs that went down into this bathroom, and I would not go to the bathroom because of your character in the people under the
the people under the stairs.
Yeah, to this day, my dad, needless to say, we left the movie early because I may have accidentally wet my pants, but terrified me in that film.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I terrified you.
And they have since torn down the theater, and it was next to The Exorcist. I think those are the scariest steps in any film. So,
wow. Thank you. Yeah, no, that was a great. I mean, I was very fortunate because I went from Roger Corman to Wes Craven. It was the movie after Slumber Massacre I did was People Under the Stairs. So I felt like, man, second movie in the U.S. and look who I'm working with. I was like blessed. I was on cloud 9 at that point.
Yeah, I have a funny story about Michael Bellella, our driller killer. He was a method actor, and so on the set for those 3 weeks and at night, he would stalk us. I mean, he wouldn't be a friendly actor.
Really?
He wouldn't talk at craft service. Did we have craft service, or was this leftover lunch? I don't know, Eric. But he would stalk us, and everybody. We were also scared of him, and I knew about the method because I studied in New York. Became a member of the Actor Studio at 17. I was the youngest member and studied with Lee Strasberg. So I knew what Michael was doing. But speed ahead, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. Michael Villela is a very well-known, or at the time was a very well-known hairstylist in Los Angeles. And he would cut my hair. And we would laugh about the time. And he would stalk us, and he was acting like this psycho killer, maniac.
That is so crazy. I didn't know he was a hairdresser, but I do remember how he did not talk to us as between any, well, really ever. And he took the drill home at night and slept with it. So I heard part of his method.
Yeah, no, I mean, on method, actually, when we shot Slumber Party Massacre 3, I wanted to get it so right because it was my first feature. And I was into, semi-method at the time. So I lived in Venice at the time, and I played, in Slumber Party Massacre 3, I played this weirdo, homeless, all dressed in black, pretending to be the killer. I was the twist of the movie. So I actually slept on a bus bench for 3 nights on the boardwalk.
Oh, wow.
All dressed in black, preparing for this Roger Corman film. Yeah.
Pamela, the best part of go home at night. I remember spending nights. We were night for night, and we would sleep up in those upstairs bedrooms, until we were called to shoot a scene or something.
Yeah.
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 The best part about that, Jan, is that your character's name is just the weirdo.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, I have another story on that because Roger and his permits, or his non-existing permits. We were shooting on Venice Beach, and it was one of the first scenes where I was shown in the movie, and they had a volleyball game going, beach volleyball. And I was supposed to sit, far apart from them, just giving them the stare, just staring them down. So we shot all this, and I was staring them down. And all of a sudden I hear some crying way back on that direction, like way far from us. A child was starting to cry. And this cop came up to me, and he said, can I ask you what you're doing on the beach? I'm like, I'm shooting a film. He said, no, I don't think you're shooting a film. I'm staring at these half-clad people over here, and you're scaring these kids. And I'm like, no, we're actually shooting a film. So he had to go with me to the production manager, and I actually had, I'm here shooting a film. So that's a story for you.
So I know you're not supposed to ask these things, but come on, let's be honest. Pamela, how much were you paid? I was paid, I looked, $40 a day.
Yeah, I think me too. I think I was paid $40. It was
non-union. It was most favored nation. Somebody got paid more.
Oh, yeah.
In 89, when you did Slumber Party Massacre 3, how much were you paid? How much did Roger cough up from $40 in 82 to?
He actually did. He did scale. He did scale plus 10 in 1989.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those must have been the days, right?
Well, I bet we helped fund that.
I'm sure you helped getting there, yes.
Yeah, we must have. I was going to ask David or Aaron, do you remember, was the house in Mar Vista, and is it often used now? Because I see what looks like the front door and the entryway of that particular home we were in other things. Was it in Mar Vista?
It was definitely in Mar Vista because well, I remember what we used to do, because we were shooting nights for how many? 4 nights in a row. 4 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row.
Right.
After we wrapped at 5:30, 6 in the morning, some of us would go to the Mar Vista Bowl, which is down on Venice Boulevard.
Yes.
And we'd get breakfast, because I think they opened at 6, and you could bowl, have breakfast, and drink at 6 in the morning. And this went from a small group of crew people to, by the time we wrapped, we even got Amy to come to Mar Vista Bowl and have, whiskey soda and egg sandwich at 6 in the morning at Mar Vista Bowl. But whether that house has been used since, I couldn't say.
Aaron, let me ask you this: you've gone on to do some really, some terrific work. I mean, you're well known as a director or producer. Are you ever ribbed about this Pizza Man delivery and the stunt? Are you ribbed about Slumber Party Massacre amongst your
No, people love Slumber Party Massacre. I mean, it's true across the board. I mean, I'll go to a party and someone will come up with the DVD and say, "Would you sign this?" And this is, this is. Yeah, no, it's not a source of embarrassment at all. People love Slumber Party Massacre.
So
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that the first film I ever did has become this kind of cult-like thing. I mean, who knew, right, Pamela?
Who would have thought? Yeah. And it is fun. It is fun to be able to say, yes, I did a horror film. It's kind of like getting a badge, It's a wonderful thing. And, I do remember this one day that I think I was going to my home where I live, and the landlady is putting in one of those peepholes in my door, and she's on the other side of the door, and she pokes a drill through it. And I can remember that it was loud outside, and there were airplanes, I think, and cars going by. So I didn't hear the drill, and Amy wanted me to look down for my keys, fumbling with my keys in the door, and this drill was supposed to come up, and it was supposed to be that moment of, it comes right at you, and you do this. And I didn't even know it had come through, and it was already there. And I looked up, and it was a one-time thing. The door had no hole, and then suddenly it did. So I think I remember they had to fuss around with it and makeshift it so that we could reshoot that. And
well, we definitely did not want to buy a second door.
I was trying to pull up the photos from the film, so.
I'm glad you retained your eye, Pamela.
I know, right? You think of these.
It's been very useful throughout the years.
Right? I should have gotten a stunt pay, huh, Aaron?
That was very forward thinking. Rita Mae Brown, I think, is a leading feminist, and to have a workman be a female with a tool belt. I mean, think of that. This is going back, 1982. Here, this listen to me, a work person. That was very forward thinking of Amy and Rita Mae Brown.
Which was interesting because at the same time, the shower scene with the girls at the gym, pretty exploitive, right, of the female body. And I used to think that, wow, that's an interesting dichotomy there, that she would write this. And even the positioning of how Trish moved the soap from one side to the other side was, particular in getting her front exposed. And I thought that's, very calculated. But I suppose it was done for a reason, right?
Aaron, was that a closed set, or was that one of those shoots, that scene where everybody needed to be on the set for some reason?
Oh, there are only like 12 people on the crew, so come on. It wasn't like the people who normally aren't there who showed up.
Guys, I hate to say this. We're running really, really short on time, and I want to take a minute to thank everybody for joining us, and I appreciate you patiently waiting and jumping on. We've got one last panel before the night ends on our end, and then we start again tomorrow with our Tom Savini panel. And guys and gals, I thank you for joining us. And again, if you want to check them out, go to Mid May Massacre. I am terrible with that, cat. Came up with that.
Mid May Massacre.
And get autographs and collectibles. Guys, thank you so much. And thanks for having us.
Bye, Pamela. Bye,
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
You are creative, right? You always knew that you would love to work in movies, special makeup effects, creating amazing monsters and characters.
I actually think our students get spoiled sometimes because, they have this giant special effects lab down the street.
This is a film studio. This is like the old days of MGM or Paramount. They're making movies here. They need makeup artists. This is why it's like a film studio. Here is a film program, and there's an assembly line of makeup artists in the makeup effects program.
I can't count how many productions we've collaborated on here.
You'll learn every aspect of the industry, and you get a degree. Graduates work on just about every big film and TV show out there. Make monsters, make movies at Douglas Education Center. Anything but ordinary.
Do you hear my dog? He's snoring.
Odin was snoring earlier, so it's all good.
Balled up and
But it's cute little puppy snores.
puppies.
It's fine.
But we're not talking cute. We're talking slasher films.
We're talking scary. We're talking
getting
blood.
gutted,
We're
guts.
talking gore. We're talking food craft service guts.
Dude, listen, you know what, Kat?
That was awesome, though.
You know what? It's getting crazy. It's like cats and dogs living in harmony, fire and brimstone. But
All of it.
Friday the 13th, part 6, taking us out.
Jason Lives.
And I guess our next guest she's a professor. Did you know that? She's a prof.
Oh.
Carrie Newman. Hey, Carrie, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Of course, my pleasure.
What are you a professor of? I'm sorry, completely off subject. I'm excited now. What are you a professor?
Well, I was getting fewer and fewer parts when I hit my mid-30s. And so I went back to school. And because I've never been practical, I got my PhD in folklore and mythology.
That's awesome.
So I study weird, wonderful things. And I teach at a small college in Burlington, Vermont, Champlain College.
That's really
That
cool.
is super cool. Well,
Actually, I met my husband in our freshman year mythology course.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I love it.
I didn't meet anybody, guys. I'm sorry. Like I wish I had some kind of exciting story. Like I went to college. I got a degree.
Hey, you have a snoring dog. I heard you.
Did you hear it?
He's
Can you
really
hear it?
I didn't hear the snoring.
Carrie, do you want to see him? I'm like a proud papa. I'm a proud papa.
He's really cute. His name is Tank.
Oh.
Now, before you ask, he is just a baby. This is not a full-grown dog. This is going to be a massive animal.
Oh my goodness.
He is.
What a cutie.
He's 12. Oh, I can't see him. He's
12 weeks.
12
Aw.
weeks old.
Oh, that's great.
And he's still
Hello.
snoring. Gary. Oh, here, go lay down, bud. He's like, why'd you just pick me up? Saint Elsewhere, Taxi, Family Ties, Murder, She Wrote, The Twilight Zone, Mr. Belvedere,
Mhm. And Nightmare on the 13th Floor, another horror movie.
Friday the 13th, Part 6, The Year in a Life, Knots Landing, come on, China Beach, Days of Our Lives. And when I was in college, I was watching you on Days of Our Lives. Came in between Dukes of Hazzard and We Lost Cat. MacGyver.
The funny thing is, I did a couple of small parts on Days of Our Lives, and one time they put you in like an extra dressing room of somebody who's not there that day. And so the person whose dressing room they put me in was Renee Jones from Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. She was Sissy. And so I didn't get to see her on the set, but I was in her dressing room. So I left her a note. I said, "It's your roomie from Camp Crystal Lake."
So what we've talked to a couple different, I mean, like what, I mean, I thought he was going to unplug my computer.
Oh, no.
What was the most exciting thing that happened at Crystal Lake?
It was such a great time. I had the best time. This was the first movie I did. I'd done some TV and I did a bunch of theater, but I hadn't done a movie before. And I really loved the script. And everybody who worked on it, everybody was young, everybody was fun. We were off in Hard Labor Creek State Park in Georgia.
Okay.
It was not far from Covington. And we were doing night shoots, of course. And if you weren't working that day, you didn't want to get off the night schedule. So you'd still like get up at 6 at night and go to bed at 6 in the morning. But I would go and I would, with the director's wife, who was also in it, Nancy McLaughlin, she and I would go and hang out on the set. And I made friends with a bunch of the crew guys. And the funniest thing was that some of the crew guys, because they were quite young, they had a running gag about rubber chickens that would show up in different shots. And the director was pretty fine about it. And then after a while, he was like, all right, guys, enough with the rubber chickens. Because, you know, there's this one character, Elizabeth, and she's reaching for a gun in her glove compartment. And she opens it, and instead of the shot of the gun, there would be a rubber chicken in there. Or another time when Jason is walking by the cabin window, and he's supposed to have the body of Sissy over his shoulder. And in one of the takes, it would be a rubber chicken over his shoulder. And so all of that got cut out, of course, except for one shot where you can see the guys who make the shadows of leaves. They're called the groundsmen. So you have these like clamps, these metal clamps, and you put tree branches in it, and then you hold it between the light and the actor, so it looks like, you know, leaves shadows on you. And so Megan, the lead, she's looking at the lake because Tommy is out in the lake with Jason, and they're both underwater, and maybe he's dead, and she's crying. And across her chest, if you look, there's all these leaf shadows, but there's also a discernible shadow of a rubber chicken kind of on her stomach area. So that's the only one that got left in the film, but the rest of them all got cut out. So that was really fun. And we also, I heard the prior panel kind of like that because we were on night shoots. We were staying in this motel outside of town, so there was nothing around there, but it had a little bar next to it, and they kept the bar open. They would open it at 8 o'clock in the morning for us because we were just coming home from, you know, back to the motel from work, because we would stop shooting at 6 in the morning. We'd all get in the vans or buses or whatever when we get back. And by the time you got back to the hotel, it was about 7:38 in the morning. And then everybody would go for a drink after work. So it was like between 8 and 10 in the morning. Everyone was doing that. And then you go to sleep, and then you wake up and get on the set at 6 p.m. again. And the one time that I wasn't staying on the night schedule, I just got so tired because I wasn't shooting that day. And I guess I went back from the set at like 4 in the morning, and I went to sleep. And then, of course, everyone's calling me from the bar at like 8 in the morning. And at that point, I'd already been to sleep. So it felt like it was morning. It didn't feel like it was after work. So I was a party pooper that night. I didn't go and join them. But it was so much fun.
Well, there's a scene that you and Court are getting your groceries.
Oh yeah, we're all unloading groceries. Yeah.
You can see you sitting down in the reflection, waiting for the scene to end.
Oh no, I have not spotted that. All right, now I have to go back and look at it. That's so funny.
I can't get past the idea of this movie, but with chickens.
Yeah,
I kind of want to see the chicken cut of this movie now. Release the chicken cut.
Do you think we can?
Everyone hashtag release the chicken cut. Go to Scream Factory and Shout Factory and do hashtag release the chicken cut.
I have one because I took a bunch of photos on set, and a couple of them have been used by Tommy McLaughlin and some other people who have released stuff about the movie. But I do have one shot of 2 of the rubber chickens kind of being hung by their neck backstage. So I do have one shot of the chickens, even though they didn't make it into the film. But so yeah,
maybe we can get like Drew to CGI it in.
More chickens, yes.
We'll call it the Drew Manchu cut.
Drew Manchu cut with all the chickens.
But it was when I first auditioned for the movie. The writer director Tommy, he found out that I was originally from New Jersey, and so is his wife Nancy, who was playing Lisbeth. And so he rewrote the script so that I would be her younger sister because he thought that would be cute. So then she became my older sister in the script. And then I remember too, well, at first I didn't really like the outfit that I got to wear for most of the film because, you know, the woman who played Sissy, she got to wear like a cute little midriff top and like, you know, like sort of cute night clothes. And I was wearing like, you know, 3 layers of shirts and like leggings and big socks and stuff. I was, you know, the sort of the nice sensible girl. But once we got out into Hard Labor Creek State Park, where it was freezing, I was very happy. Yeah, I was the warmest one of all of us, so I was fine. Then when we, go ahead.
No, go finish.
When the night that we were filming my death scene, CJ Graham, who plays Jason in ours, well, we had two people who played Jason, but one of them was let go before I came on set, and then CJ had been hired, and he was an ex-Marine, and he had this sort of big build, and he could move the way the director wanted him to move. But he hadn't acted before. So, and he was a nice guy. And so that night I said to him, please, I don't want you to talk to me in between takes, because I need to forget that you're nice CJ. I need to think of you as Jason. I need to be scared of you. So I don't want to talk to you in between the takes. Okay. And he said, what? And I said, look, I don't want to remember that you're just this nice guy. I want to just really be scared of you. And so just don't talk to me in between times. And finally he thought I was crazy, but he's like, I know, all right. And so in between takes, I would go walk out in the woods in the dark to kind of spook myself. And then I would come back in. And then it wasn't until we were finished shooting that I was nice and chatted with him afterwards.
So have any of your students approached you about Friday the 13th?
In almost every class, somebody will have Googled me, and that is the one credit that they know about. So word will spread throughout the class, that I did a horror movie and someone will bring it up, and then they'll all like ask me questions and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty funny. That or the Twilight Zone. Those are the two things that people remember me from.
I think it would be hilarious if you walked into class, you start to write on the board, and then you turn around and everybody is wearing a mask.
That would be pretty funny.
It would be terrifying, but it would be pretty funny.
That would be really funny. But yeah, when I brought my sister, I actually had not seen too many slasher films when I got cast in this, because slasher films scare me. And so I had seen Halloween, the first Halloween. And then my boyfriend at the time was in Halloween 2. So I had seen that because I wanted to go see him. And then, but I hadn't seen any of the Friday the 13th, but my sister loves horror movies. And so when I had the audition, I called up my sister and I'm like, all right, you've got to fill me in on what is the story of this whole series. And so she did. And then I paid for her to come and fly to visit the set because I knew she would really like it. And then I took her to the cast and crew screening, and just as it's going to become my death scene, she leans over to me. She's my little sister. And she leans over to me and she goes, this is the moment I've been waiting for my whole life.
Wow.
Did you question why
I thought it was so funny. I couldn't stop laughing. And we had gone to, and then I went to go see the movie in Westwood, in Los Angeles, where I was living, because I wanted to see it with a real audience, people who would get scared and stuff. And that was really fun, to hear all the no, all that kind of stuff. And then I walked out and I thought, ooh, maybe they'll recognize me. And no one recognized me. No one had any idea who I was. So my little dreams of having fans at that moment just, blew away.
But listen, for the millions that are watching this at home right now, they're all going to, this is your moment.
I know. Yes. Here we go.
Well, I mean, Kat is the biggest slasher fan in the world. Her claim to fame is she is actually missing, and Jason may have killed her in a fan film. Right?
Yeah.
But
it's like 1,000,000 degrees away, but yeah.
Hey, why not? Well, I remember when for my death, I was sort of bitter that I didn't get fake body parts, to be strewn about, because a lot of other people had they had fake arms made and legs, and Renee Jones, who played Sissy, they made a fake head of her and she had a headless body, and everyone was getting all that stuff made by all the special effects guys. And I didn't have any of that. And I was like, why don't I get body parts? And then after we did my death, the prop guys, they had 30 buckets of stage blood that they splashed all around the cabin. And I remember looking at the director and I said, what did he do? Puree me? And I was like, maybe I come back. Maybe I'm Bride of Jason. Am I in the next one? And he's like, yeah, I don't think so. And then a year or so later, because whenever they used to cast the Friday the 13th, they never said it was a Friday the 13th. When I auditioned for this one, the title was Aladdin Sane, the name of the David Bowie album.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to hide the fact that they were making another one, like until they wanted to keep it under wraps until they were going to release it.
It
was like a
Crystal Japan with
the
other one.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, so I get this call from my agent to go to this casting director. There's another horror movie. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm looking at they give you just a few pages called sides of the script. I'm looking at it and they're talking about Ethan, the killer, wearing a mask in the lake. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, I think this is Jason and we left him in the lake. And so I went in and it was for Friday the 13th part 7. And I go in and I said to the casting director, you might not want to read me for this. He goes, why? I said, well, I was in the last one. And he and the director said, the last what? And I said, oh, this is a Friday the 13th, isn't it? I was in part 6. And they go, oh yeah, it is. Okay, never mind. So I didn't get to read for that one.
They were going to bring you back. You should.
I know.
You were going to be the bride of Jason.
The return of Paula.
You were going to wait. That would have been 7, right?
Yeah, it would have been 7. That was the one where she was psychic. There was this psychic girl. Yeah.
So there's a whole different story about that. Do you know?
Oh yeah. No.
So tomorrow we have the cast of 7 on, but John Orton. Right, Orton. He was supposed to be the actual next Jason.
Oh,
like it was going to be like the new blood. Like this guy actually ends up killing Jason, and it was going to be the new one. So that could have been you, Paula. I mean, that called you Paula.
Could have been a zombie.
But it's interesting. One of the things that I really loved about this script that I think Tommy McLaughlin is so good is that he loves the horror genre and he was able to sort of gently make fun of it in a way, because you have the old gravekeeper who looks straight at the camera and says, some people have a strange sense of entertainment. And you also have the little kids reading No Exit and, the little kids saying things like, well, what were you going to be when you grew up? So he has all these sort of like comments on the genre, and yet he doesn't mock it. It's not a send up. It's a real horror movie. But he has this sort of love for it, which allows him to kind of play with it, which I thought was really great. But another cool thing is that I got there on the day that they were shooting one of the scenes in the cemetery where Jason is getting resurrected. And of course, that's a direct reference to Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Being brought back to life with the lightning and everything. And I saw them shooting the scene where Jason puts his hand through the guy's chest, the guy who I'm blanking on his name now, who played Horshack in Welcome Back, Kotter. And you see the hand come out the other side of his body with the heart in it. And apparently they shot it 3 different ways because it was like mildly gory, really gory, and very gory. Because they didn't want to get an X rating because that meant the teenagers couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But they wanted to have it be as gory as possible, so that it would, would have a buzz about it and everyone would want to see it. So for a lot of the deaths, he would sometimes shoot several versions of it to kind of see how far he could go. And I know for my death, that's not me who gets thrown across the window. And they did that after I left. I didn't see them doing that because I guess they wanted it to be a little bloodier.
Well, you said a little bloodier. I mean,
yeah, they're 30 buckets. My favorite is the popcorn there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It survived.
30 buckets of stage blood. But yeah, and then there were 3 deaths that the studio told him that his body count was not high enough. So after they had shot everything in Georgia, he added 3 more deaths that were shot in Griffith Park in Los Angeles, who was the old cemetery guy, and then the couple on the moped. And so that was shot in Los Angeles. Because just to up the body count.
Well, hey, Carrie, I just want to thank you for taking the time tonight, and you actually helped us out a ton and stuck around, and I appreciate that. And we are hitting our moment of silence, so we're going to wrap it up tonight.
All right.
Carrie, thank you again. If you don't mind.
Thank you so much.
If you guys want to check her out on Mid
May Massacre website.
On
Check
the
it out.
website.
We've got signatures. We've got all bits and bobs. Go ahead and check it out.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much, and
thank you.
And
thank you for coming on with us.
Had
Yeah,
a
of
blast.
course.
Thank
you so much. This was so much fun.
See ya.
Bye.
Good night.
How's your back holding up?
Oh, dude, I've been up since 6 this morning.
But guess
I had
what?
to help open this morning.
We did it.
Yeah, we did. First
So,
night.
welcome
Mid May
back to
Massacre.
Hall E. I filled in for the Ledge and the cat holding it strong, guys. Hey, if you want to check us out tomorrow night, starting at whatever time, go to the website, check us out. We'll be live. Cat and I will be back on
Sunday.
We'll be back on Sunday, but
We'll
tomorrow
be back with Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. The
And
making of.
tomorrow night, guys, if you want to check out, we got Panda Red doing the Tom Savini panel. Our buddy Jay over there from TikTok. This has been like, can you say it? Like, I'm not gonna say it. Like, he's your internet dad. So you wanna close us out?
So this has been Hall E. I am not the great legend, but I am the Cat Run Figures, and of course Chad, my main man. And peace out. God bless. Until next time. Yeah.
That's it.
Bye. I don't know. I can't do a legend impression very well.
This is a great legend, and we'll see you next week. Hey, guys, Comic Core coming back next Friday.
Oh
Good night.
yeah.